Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to your September horoscopes for your zodiac sign. Now, this is how you're going to read for your sign. You're going to read first for your rising sign. If you do not know your rising sign, you want to go on a free 99 website like AstroSeek or astro.com. You punch in your data, your date of birth, location, and time, and then you will see your rising sign, which is also the ascendant. Then you're going to read for your ascendant sign. This is how I do the monthly forecasts because this will give you a bigger picture of where the transits are going through your own personal houses. Now, as a disclaimer, like always, this is based on just your rising sign. There's other things to take into consideration, like if you have any natal placements in and around the degrees that I mention. Another thing to keep in mind is that not all transits will impact you because they just won't. Like, that's why you want to look at the degree of the transit and if you have any placements around that specific transit. Try not to get into this mindset of, is this good or bad? Because only you can perceive of something as good or bad. Something that might be a challenging aspect for me or its transit might actually be something that ends up being a blessing in disguise later on. So I try not to say what is good or bad. I'll say, this is an auspicious day to start something. This might bring blessings down the road. This is a challenging transit that you might need to lean into, or you might be triggered on this day. That's how I try to do the forecast so that you are prepared and you're not blindsided by certain things that might happen. You also have to take into consideration your profection year, so your time lord, different like midlife transits. You know, there's people going through their Saturn return right now, which is a different experience than if you weren't going through a Saturn return. Some people are going through their midlife transits. They're going through their simultaneous Pluto and Neptune square. So there's all these different layers to take into consideration when you listen to this. And like I said, collectively, 2025, we're all going through massive changes. We're all being asked to show up in different ways to really work through our own bullshit, to heal our trauma. And then individually, we can narrow that down to certain things that we are going to be focusing on in our own transits. So, if you want to learn more about your own specific natal chart, I am teaching Astrology 101. I opened up my star school that starts October 6th. It's a 12-week class. We meet for 2 hours every Monday between 12 and 2 p.m. And I'm going to teach you how to read your natal chart so that when you listen to the transits and you remember, oh, I have a 5-degree sun in Aries. So then next year, the Saturn and Neptune conjunction in Aries is going to impact me. Stuff like that. It's really important to understand your natal chart when you listen to these transits, because like I said, not all transits are going to impact you. And also not all transits impact people the same way. So that is one way you can go deeper with me. And I mean, obviously you're listening to this. So if you are a Patreon member, you're getting this at the top of the month. If you want to become a Patreon member so that you could receive this in the beginning of the month versus like when it's, we're already going into mid-month, then you can be in the North Node. I believe I call it the North Node tier. It's $10 a month. And you can also listen to the monthly forecast that I do with Stephanie Campos, which we go day by day, every single day of the month. In these monthly transits, I only really talk about the ones that would impact your rising sign, the most important ones. Obviously, the 2 lunations and any of your chart rulers, your planetary ruler changing signs or making significant aspects. If you want to come along with me every week in the forecast where I break it down day by day, that's free 99 on YouTube. But if you want to support my work, you can join the first tier of my Patreon, which you just pay $5. I think it's $5.55 a month to support my work. So that is how to engage with the content of the monthly forecasts. I obviously can't answer all of the questions you have if you are not a Patreon member. This is another benefit of being a member because if you're not a Patreon member and you're watching it in the general public, you're already catching this forecast in like mid-month when I've already, spent a lot of time putting this out for my Patreon members. So they get first priority. And then if you're watching just the clips of it, just know that I post the clips for marketing purposes, but there's a whole month of transits that give context to your experience. Because there were a couple of people that just watched the clips last month and they were like, yeah, but I'm a Libra rising and this Venus Cancer conjunction in my 10th house is not auspicious for me. I just got fired from my job. But if you had watched the full month forecast, I said that Venus and Jupiter, just because they're both benefics, doesn't mean that it's all going to be like rainbows and butterflies. So those are the disclaimers. Thank you so much for being here and thank you so much for supporting my work. Let's get to your sign. Hello, Sagittarius rising. Welcome to your September forecast. I'm so glad to be the deliverer of this forecast because I am a Sagittarius rising. So I feel like I am living out these transits with you. So, Sagittarius, your chart ruler is Jupiter, and Jupiter changes signs once a year. So, nothing really is changing in terms of your planetary ruler, except that it is going to have some squares. So, I would say for the month of September, as we go from Virgo season, which is the 10th house, to the 11th house, which is Libra season, the focus and the eclipses between the 4th and the 10th, which are angular houses, the focus is going to be on your foundation, your home, your family, your private life, also your 10th house of career and what you're publicly known for. And then the focus will go into probably the collective and like what you're trying to birth out into the universe. So I guess we'll start with the beginning. September 1st, Saturn will retrograde back into Pisces in your 4th house, finishing up this story in your angular houses. Now, for all the mutable rising signs, I've been saying this to Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. The eclipses are happening in your angular houses, which means that this will impact multiple areas of your life. And because Jupiter and Mercury rule two of your angular houses, September could feel like a really busy month and almost like changes are happening in multiple areas of your life all at once to the point where you might crash out. So I would suggest to all Sagittarius risings to have some sort of routine, ritual, altar, meditation practice, or some way to regulate your nervous system, because all of the intentions you've been setting since even like March, because that was the last time we had eclipses, and the full moons where you were releasing, all of that ritual work, all of the work that you've been doing, all of the internal work and the healing and the interrogation of your system and upgrading your system. This is the month where you kind of get to sit back and watch the universe kind of move things away and bring things in. Essentially, this is what I always say, like eclipses are moments where it's not times to necessarily set intentions or manifest per se, but just allow the universe to do its magic. And so September could be, for a lot of Sagittarius risings, massive endings in terms of family and career, like what you are personally known for. And I say this as a Sagittarius rising, being an astrologer, knowing what could happen, what potentially could happen. I want to deliver this message in the most like gentle way, but also being like completely honest and real about what could potentially happen. Now, if you watch the beginning, I said, not every transit will impact you. Not every transit will be related to you. So take what resonates and leave what does not. But essentially, Saturn going through the fourth house, you would have already had this flavor of what this transit was about for you, right? Because the fourth house is your home. This is about your family. This is about your home of origin. So, like if you're not from the country that you reside in, this could be issues dealing with your homeland. This could also deal with elders in your family. And I have to say that I've been watching out for this transit specifically for a couple of years now. Um, because the last time Saturn was in this area of my life, my grandma had a stroke and then she became um, paralyzed within one um, part of her body. And then she became um, disabled. And then she had to go into a nursing home, which changed the dynamics of our family because my father then kind of became the primary caregiver and would go visit her all the time. The fourth house in astrology is the house of the father, too. So um, I was looking out for this transit for a long time. And then the fact that I'm in an eighth house perfection year, which is the house of death and inheritance, and Jupiter is in that house. Um, I knew that this would have to do with a potential loss of a family member, an elder, perhaps, um, and some grief that comes with this. So I say this just to prepare yourself. And this isn't something that would maybe be a surprise because, you know, Saturn is like an elderly figure. This is somebody who is aging. Um, it might come as a surprise just because of the eclipses that are also happening here. But this could also have something to do with, um, somebody who is going to need some assistance and extra help that might be a hinder to your finances, as Saturn also rules your second house of your income. I just want to give you all the possible scenarios so that you're not blindsided, is what I'm trying to say. So, this is finishing up its story, is what I'm trying to say. And then in February of next year, you will have that conjunction between Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. So until now, until next spring, Saturn is, closing out this chapter. Whatever this is, though, it's so crucial to your feeling of being anchored into this physical reality. If you think about it, home, family, family of origin, the past, our history, all of these stories, all of these mythologies and lores that deal with how you came into this earth is an essential part of your feeling tethered to this plane. So if you have your IC here, that's why I have my IC at 29 degrees of Pisces. So it's like our anchor point here on earth. Whatever happens, I am here for you as a Sagittarius rising myself. On September 2nd, Mercury will ingress into Virgo in your 10th house. So again, something is ending while simultaneously beginning. And I think for a lot of Sagittarius rising, the focus being so much about family and then like what you are publicly known for is you might be changing careers. You might have a pivot in your career as a result of something going on with your family. But Mercury in its exaltation and domicile in Virgo, this is the time. for Sagittarius rising to put your ideas out there, put whatever it is that you've been working on out into the public forum. That is what I'm doing personally. I'm teaching astrology for the first time, and I'm kind of like putting myself out there. I spent a lot of years trying to figure out like what was my thing. And as a mutable rising sign, having a mutable 10th house, I think for a lot of us Sagittarius risings or any mutable rising sign, it's really about, it's not about like the title, which I think a lot of people in a capitalistic society want, right? We want to be known as the thing, as an astrologer, as a writer, whatever the case may be. But really, the beauty of having a mutable rising sign is that that's just not going to be our thing, especially if you have your midheaven in Virgo. It's going to consistently change with your life. What you become interested might change over time. And accepting that has been such a huge journey for me personally. And so, in this iteration, in this timeline, in this moment, what you are offering might be something completely different than what you were offering like 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And owning that and being okay with that might be what the South Node in the 10th house means for you. So, this is really lovely because the focus then becomes on what is it that you are committed to doing in this moment. On September 4th, Mars in Libra will square Jupiter in Cancer at 18 degrees. Now, I would be careful on this day just because Mars has this cutting energy. Mars is a pincer, a poker, and Jupiter is your chart ruler, which rules your body. And it also rules your home and family, the fourth house. So I want to put a warning sign, like just to be careful on this day. However, Jupiter has more dignity and it is in an overcoming square to Mars. Mars is in its detriment, so it's the weaker planet. But I still want to put that out there because for any Sag risings, this could have something to do with, having a conflict with a friend, having an argument with somebody, and potentially if you have children, this could be an argument with a child or maybe a conflict that deals with financial support as Jupiter is in the eighth house of other people's resources and income. But just wanted to put that out there. Be very careful on this day. On September 6th, Uranus stations retrograde at 1 degree of Gemini. So Gemini is your seventh house. So Uranus is traveling through your partnership sector. So if you have a Sag rising in and around 0 to like, let's say 3 degrees, Uranus is on your descendant. And so Uranus is shaking up your partnership sector. And as a result is kind of like challenging you because it's in opposition to you. So Uranus being here would have given you a preview of what your Uranus and Gemini transit might be for the next 8 years. Uranus is the planet of disruption, of upheaval, of revelation, of revolution. But Uranus wants to bring change. It wants to shake up your relationship. So if your relationship has been on unsteady ground, like you and your partner, you and your relationships are just, they're not on a solid foundation. Uranus is going to break it apart. Uranus is going to be like, like this is not, it basically shows you where there's weaknesses, right? You might decide, I've been in this relationship for 20 years and I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. I want to be single. Or on the other hand, if you've been single for a really long time, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I actually want to be in a partnership. Uranus has this very like unexpected, like aha, epiphany kind of feeling. And this could just make you also have different kinds of people in your life. Like you might be attracted to more Uranian people, people who are revolutionary or people who are like thought leaders and thinkers, right? You might also become very involved in your neighborhood. Like being a little disruptor, being a community organizer. And I say that because Pluto is in Aquarius in your third house of your neighborhood and making a trine. So September 7th, we have our first eclipse. This is a lunar eclipse at 2:08 p.m. Eastern time at 15 degrees of Pisces. Now, this is going to impact you because the ruler of this lunation is Jupiter in Cancer, your chart ruler. So it's bringing the topics of you and your family into the eighth house. Now, like I said, not all, some Sag risings might have a family member, an elder who passes away. And as a result, you receive an inheritance, which is the eighth house. You might have to take care of an elderly family member, your parents, perhaps. You might have to go back to your parents' house to take care of them or take care of your home, family of origin. You might have to travel to your homeland to take care of some business. But ultimately, whatever this is, in the long term, it will set you up financially because an exalted Jupiter in the eighth house is receiving support and receiving financial help from somebody. And because Jupiter also rules you, this could help you in the long run. Like I said, this might not be an easy eclipse because it is a full moon. It is an ending of some sort. Some Sag risings could also be laid off. And as a result, the ways in which you receive your income might change. But I always say, because there is some luck around this, it's a North Node eclipse. So this is something that your soul is trying to, or like the North Node has an increasing effect, right? This is something that you're trying to make real in the material realm. This is something that your soul is trying to focus on, which is the home life. It's the private life. This is your foundation. You know, a lot of Sag risings might have become interested in your ancestors and having ancestral elevation and veneration, you know? As a result of something changing at home or some aha moment, epiphany moment that you've been experiencing, you've decided to pivot in your career. Maybe the career isn't as important as it used to be. And now you're finding something that is in more of alignment with, you know, humanity. Virgo is to be of service. The ruler of this lunation is that Jupiter in Cancer, and the moon and Jupiter have mutual reception. So, like I said, there is some benefic feeling of this. An ancestor might be helping you out. I really believe that. I really believe that, like, for example, my grandfather has been coming in so much recently because I feel like, well, I didn't know him as a like in this timeline in this material realm because he died when I was really young, but he's like coming through so much because I feel like he's really helping me in my business and in my astrology. He came up in a meditation the other day, and I feel fully supported by my ancestors at this time. So that's the best way to use this lunation, is to do some kind of like ancestral work, build an altar for your ancestors. If you don't have a relationship with your ancestors, maybe this is a good time to start. But again, this is a full moon, so something is ending. Let's see. September 13th, Mercury will conjunct the sun in Virgo at 20 degrees. And I love this day. This is a Kazemi. So, whatever is ending in your career sector, what you are known for, what you are being of service to the collective for, this is a great day to launch a business. I'm personally using this day, like this week, to promote my astrology class because the second week of September is really sweet. It's like a little break and a reprieve from an utterly chaotic, possibly month in September. I'm personally, I wouldn't say excited is the right word, but I'm welcoming the changes that I've been personally working really hard towards. And I just have faith that, and this is why, like, being a Sag rising, it's so important to have a deeper faith in something that you can't see, like a spiritual practice, because and anybody, not even just that you're ruled by Jupiter, but like anybody, because what is going to be called for us in the next couple of years as we go through this tumultuous changing of the collective and our government is a deeper faith that everything is working out for the best, even when it seems like it's not. And that's where I kind of get my Delulu faith from, my ancestral practices. So going back to the Kazemi, this is a great day to launch something, to announce something in your career, if that is what's in store for you. Um, September 18th, Mercury will ingress into Libra, which is your 11th house. So Mercury rules your partnership house and also your career. This is another great day to get your messaging out there to a group, to a community, to a collective. This is a great day to do some like public speaking, perhaps. Libra is the sign and archetype of justice, of social justice, and really getting people on board with what you have to say. I mean, what you are trying to, like, Mercury in Libra is great for like campaigning, because Libra is ruled by Venus. People who have Mercury in Libra are really sweet talkers. So you can also use this transit for that as well. September 19th, Venus will ingress into Virgo, and Venus will be at the top of your chart. So Venus is in its fall in Virgo. So it's a weakened Venus, okay? But like planets in their detriment or fall aren't messed up. They just have a different skill set that they work with. I think of planets in their detriment and fall as immigrants to a country that they're not from. They don't know the language, they don't know the customs, but they have to learn and be scrappy along the way. So Venus in Virgo at the top of your chart, ultimately it's a benefic. It's going to bring you some sort of public awareness. If you're a career forward person, Venus rules your 11th house again and your 6th house. So I think this is beneficial for any Sag risings who are trying to get themselves a promotion in the month of September. If they're trying to get their businesses out there, please use these transits to your benefit. And let's see. On September 21st, there is a partial solar eclipse at 3:54 p.m. Eastern Time at 29 degrees of Virgo. Now, this one is a little more challenging than the lunar eclipse that was on September 7th because this is opposing Saturn in your 4th house. So this is a solar eclipse. So it's a new moon. There's a new beginning. However, it's a south node eclipse. So something is being released, purged, let go. Again, I think a lot of Sag risings might be going through a career pivot. You might be doing something differently. You might be less focused on your career. Some Sag risings might be retiring or letting go of a position that you had. But it is opposing Saturn. Again, this might be dealing with a family member who needs your attention, a family member who you're in a conflict with. This could be you get laid off from a job and it affects your ability to make money as Saturn rules your 2nd house of income. But this is a tense aspect. And because Saturn is in an angular house, again, if you are a Sag rising, in and around, let's say, like 25 to 29 degrees of Sag rising, this is squaring you. So some aspect of your home is kind of in a conflict with the next iteration of where your career wants to go, what you're known for, your public facing persona, what you are birthing into the world. Something at home is preventing you perhaps of maybe even like launching a career or Yeah, something is happening where Saturn is saying no. Ay, ay, ay. But with anything, like I said, with eclipses, the best way to use this energy is to surrender to what is trying to be released from your life, what's trying to exit left, because ultimately this will be a blessing for you. The ruler of this solar eclipse is that Mercury in Libra in the 11th house. So whatever you are, like whatever long-term wishes and goals and desires, because that's what the 11th house is to you. The 11th house also is in a sextile to you. In the long run, even though you can't see it in this moment, it will be beneficial for you. On September 22nd, Mars will ingress into Scorpio in its own sign in your 12th house. So this could be a really great time to face your fears, deal with your limiting beliefs, your self sabotaging thoughts and behaviors, and really tackle the things that are holding you back. I would be careful too I would do some protection spells during this time because the 12th house is hidden enemies and people who might be like sending you evil eye. Um, I do the freezer spell. Basically, you write someone's name on a piece of paper and you fill the Ziploc bag with water and then you put them in the freezer essentially. And I always say, with every spell, with no harm to none, but like, please have this person not be obsessed with me, not send me evil eye. This could be somebody who, is just watching you and unintentionally sending you evil eye, like jealous people. I deal with this all the time just because I have such a not big, but I have a social media presence. I have like those lingering eyes watching over me. So I'm going to do this spell during this eclipse season. Um, the same day, there is a fall equinox happening in your 11th house. The sun will ingress into Libra. So all the topics that went from Virgo 10th house will go into your 11th house of the community. You might be more focused in organizing with people. Like I said, if you are trying to campaign or you're trying to get your business out there, you might need the help of other people, like friends. So having the sun, which is the ruler of your ninth, in your 10th, in your 11th, also you just might be teaching, you might be evangelizing people. I don't know. Sag people are those dogmatic spiritual people who are like, this is my belief system and you should believe in that. That's the shadow aspect of Sagittarius risings. But I love the equinoxes and solstices to also do some magic. And that week, what I love about that week is that between your 11th house, third house, and seventh house, you have this grand air trine going on between the Libra sun, Pluto in Aquarius, and Uranus and Gemini. This is such a great time at the end of September to really community organize, get people on your side, get people to, you know, Pluto and Aquarius, Uranus and Gemini are revolutionary transits. This could be a great time to canvas for people, the politicians that you believe in. This is a great time to learn and find your community. Now, on September 24th, there is a very difficult aspect. Mars in Scorpio will square Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 1 degree. For you personally, this just might mean like, again, this might be more personal, but you might be dealing with, excuse me, you might be dealing with if you have siblings or cousins, you might be dealing with some conflict with them. The third house is also your like immediate neighborhood and the people that you know. You might just be having a conflict with them. Mars in Scorpio is like in its shadow expression, obsession. This could be revenge. This could be jealousy. And then when it's poking at Pluto and Aquarius, this could just be like being triggered by old traumas, being triggered by old wounding. So I would just be like, September 24th, I would just be mindful of this time. Um, Of course, I don't say to people like bury your head in the sand, but I would just take extra care of yourself and take notice of what traumas come up, because that is information for you to understand the historical roots of your traumas. And a book I like to recommend to people with these kind of transits is Resma Menakem's book, My Grandmother's Hands, because I think Mars in the 12th is really facing your fear and really being aware of how some of these fears might inhibit you from showing up in a bigger way. And ultimately, every transit has its gifts, no matter how challenging they might be. This could be the breakthrough that you've been wanting or needing for you to really like see, oh crap, like I had this fear of showing up, of being of service, of sharing my gift because of this old trauma that I had repressed so deep in my subconscious that I didn't realize that that's why I was doing it, for example. Anyway, Sagittarius rising, I am rooting for you. As always, take care of yourself and make sure to try to surrender to the journey that September has in store for you. And as always, take care, and I will see you next month.